All right, welcome to the Avery Adventures podcast. As always, you can get 20% at Mountain Off using the code FATKID at mountainops.com. We'd really appreciate it. Today on the show, we have Brad Brooks from Argali. Me and Tanya went to the, I don't remember the actual name of that tour, but we went out and watched a video last year called Chasing Ridgelines. There's two kind of goofy guys from Idaho in it. Later on that year, they actually came to Rockside and became a sponsor. And we have Brad Brooks from Argali on the show today. Welcome to the show, Brad.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys. It's a nice Monday morning, so appreciate you having me on.
It is a nice Monday morning. First of all, I want to say that Tanya and I really enjoyed that video. They had to take some effort to get that produced.
Yes. So Chasing Ridgelines, which was really the first film that we made. We filmed it, we started in June and finished it in October, and we filmed, I think we had 4 separate trips to film, make that film. So dozens and dozens of hours of footage. And really the intent with that was, if you've seen the film, let me just back up. The reason we got started, I was having a beer with a filmmaker friend of mine, and we were commiserating about how we felt like the vast majority of the films that we had seen in the hunting world didn't really capture what we thought was important to us as hunters. And again, not to denigrate what other people have done, but it really wasn't they weren't really capturing what we thought was important. So importance of wild places and sort of the lifestyle that goes into just trying, being in wild country when you're hunting. And so that led to sort of making Chasing Ridgelines after a handful more beers. We made commitments that neither of us wanted to back out of.
That's how they all start, aren't they? Beer. Beer
starts
all the conversations.
Yep. Yeah. So that's how we got started. Did a bunch of filming, and turned out it was a lot of work, and turned out pretty well. And since then, we've made another film. We've made 2 more films, and this last fall, we have sort of our most ambitious project to date, which is a film that'll come out this coming, probably summer, and it's going to be more of like a quite a bit longer film, and it's called The Last Wild Place. It's sort of the first installment of a series we're doing on the last wild places in America where you can hunt and find adventure. And the first one's going to be on the Frank Church, so I'm really excited for that one. And there are some things I can't talk about yet in that film, but we're working on it right now. So
that's going to be on your YouTube channel.
It will eventually. We're shooting to have it in some film festivals like Banff and Telluride, some more mainstream mountain film festivals. Nice. So this is new for us. We're trying to bring hunting to a largely non-hunting audience. So this is kind of a new project for us. We're trying to not just reach hunters, but also try and help people that don't hunt understand the value in hunting. And also kind of break down some of the stereotypes that, unfortunately, hunting has with the vast majority of people in America that don't hunt.
Right. Is your brother also in this one?
He's not. No, it was another friend of mine, one of my close friends named Charlie. He and I did that. So the whole premise of the film is we flew into the Frank, got dropped off with a couple rafts in November, did that late season mule deer hunt there. And flew to the Middle Fork and backpacked out in a few spots. And so it's kind of about that adventure, but along the way we also interview some people that helped make the Frank Church happen. So we would go back and interview some outfitters, some people that lived in the Frank Church for 20 years, just about what life is like living in the Frank. Because you got to think about it, it's pretty incredible. Like, there aren't many places in the lower 48 where you can live in a place that's as isolated as anything in Alaska. And the only way in or out for most people is by bush plane. So it's just an interesting place. And we wanted to tell the story of that place through the lens of adventure. So
I watched the documentary on the Frank on like Idaho Outdoor Television, and it was very interesting. There's a lady, and I don't remember the ins and outs of it. It was a few years ago, but I didn't quite understand the history until I watched that show. So it was pretty interesting.
And this is
it's fascinating.
I don't know.
The Frank Church Wilderness.
Oh.
Tanya, you're just like disappointing me so much right now.
She started hunting 2 years ago, and she actually hunted the fringes of it down in 36.
Okay. Yeah, it's the funny. No, your actual reaction is pretty normal, Tanya. It's most people. The interesting part is the people that hunt that place the most are out of state hunters. There's hardly anybody from Idaho in there, and most people from Idaho may have heard of the Frank. Some people have been there, but it's kind of a black hole on the map for most people.
That's why people don't know about it. It's the black hole.
Yeah, I know. That's right. Just sucks you in. Yeah. It's a cool spot though, and it's large. It's the largest, when you pair that with the Selway Bitterroot Wilderness just to the north, it's the largest contiguous wilderness in the lower 48. So it's this big, vast chunk of wild ground. Yeah, just absolutely rugged. It's about one of the only places where you can really get like truly lost anymore. Well,
that's totally because when we go hunting at places, it's like, we're in Unit 36. That's all I get to know. I get to know like landmarks. I don't get to, because then people will be like, hey, where'd you go? And I, instead of saying, oh, we were down by blah, 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 it's like Unit 36. Oh, what part? I don't know. Only Unit 36. That's all I get to know.
Oh,
He's afraid I might accidentally divulge some valuable information and not know that I'm doing it.
It happens, so I won't comment on the relationship element here, but yeah, I mean, I feel like there's anymore. That's part of the problem with filmmaking too. Is like honestly I'm one of those people that is pretty tight-lipped about places I hunt, especially big game, and it's hard to make a film that doesn't give away some elements of the places you're hunting.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask. I bet that's really hard. You have to film in pretty tight, don't you? To not.
Yes, or you have tricks. And I think Ryan and you and I have talked about this before, but
yes.
There are ways to, because to me it's just like, it's natural for people to wonder where you're at. But some people take it to another level in terms of trying to like dissect where you're at. And the way I look at it is there's a lot of good places to hunt in the West. So I'm not particularly worried if somebody wants to try and hunt where we're at. It's going to be hard to get there anyway, so it's not like you're just going to waltz in there. But there are ways we can mask that. So a lot of people think they know where we're at, but unfortunately they don't know that they're sometimes being fooled a little bit with the way we edit our films.
Right.
But
the hardest part about hiding that stuff is there's some places that just look so unique and they have unique features or unique brush. There's some places that I've said, man, I just can't even show this because they're going to know exactly where I'm at. So it is tough.
Yes.
But you get into that wilderness area and just the travel, the distance, you can start to kind of separate yourself until a bunch of 5,000 Washingtonians fly in there at one time.
Yeah, there was at least that many guys from Washington there. Love guys from Washington. No disrespect.
Get back on track. You kind of started Argali to put out that message of wild places, wild things, BHA kind of stuff to help people acknowledge that they're out there. We need to protect them. We need to keep them out of state hands.
Yeah, it was more about protecting that experience for hunters mostly. So, and if you look at our mission, we have a mission that's all about helping other people get out and have those kinds of experiences. Because I truly think, for me in my life, it was transformational. It shaped who I am as a person. That's not overstating it whatsoever. I mean, my experiences hunting, I didn't grow up backcountry hunting. My dad is from Wisconsin, so he grew up hunting whitetails in close quarters. And so the way we used to hunt elk as a kid was kind of like he would hunt whitetails. And so it was a very unique approach to hunting elk. And that's how when I was a young kid, I grew up doing it. But as I got older, I just kept wanting to check out new country. And I started backpacking with my dad's old equipment. And then I just fell in love with, this idea of trying to get away from everybody else, really. And I wanted to help other people do that as well. So everything we do at Argali is sort of geared around helping other people have that experience. Because I think once you if you go on like a small W wilderness type hunt, that could be, you could do that anywhere. It doesn't have to be, the Frank Church wilderness or Alaska. You can have a wilderness hunt in a real small piece of ground, because wilderness can be in the eye of the beholder, really. It can be a life changer for you. And I truly do believe that. And, we take it for granted because we live in Idaho and we have a lot of wild country out our back doors. But if you don't live around all this country, it can blow your mind. And I've seen it happen to people from like the Bay Area. I've taken them out, and I've watched guys who are like CEOs, like talking about guys that pull in very large sums of money. They're CEOs of well-off tech companies. They spend one trip in some place in Idaho, and they've literally like dropped everything, moved their family, like reorganized their whole life around what's important. So anyways, yeah. So everything we do at Argali, whether it's our films, our articles, or our store, I kind of look at it all as trying to help people have those sort of transformational experiences through hunting.
Yeah, and you have some very good how-tos on not only just backpack hunting, but you have how-tos on gear, the gear you use and why you use it. And Rockside, obviously, we come from a gear-driven background, but I like the way you explain it, and your methodology is different, and I like it.
No, thanks. Yeah, I never know if people like it, but so it's good to hear.
Yeah, it's early in the morning. We can't talk, we don't.
It's okay.
We're not this stupid. We're from Idaho, but we can speak intelligently.
Yeah, we're trying to use our words. Brad's an hour ahead of us, so he's looking way smarter.
It's okay, guys. You'll catch up. 30 minutes or so, I know.
Long, it takes you. I know that you have to record tons and tons of video just to get the small portion of film that you make. Like on an average, how many trips, how many hours of film do you have to use to condense down to what is the final product?
Oh, good question. It varies based on what we're doing. So, okay, and there's different media platforms. So if we're making a film, if we're making what I would consider to be art more than anything, that's going to be a lot.
One that you've done on the tour, like last
year. So like a tour film is probably going to have a minimum of like 10 to 12 hours of film and upwards of like 30 if we really push it. We try not to film that much anymore. If we're making a 15-minute film, if we're doing something exclusively for YouTube, it's like totally different platform where people don't seem to really, you're not making art on YouTube. It's all about like quantity over quality of content. If that makes sense.
It's raw and people like it.
Yeah.
YouTube.
You're not rewarded oftentimes for making something look pretty on YouTube. Yeah, and I don't
go there to see the river runs through it,
I know people don't, man. It's totally different. I don't claim to totally understand how it all works, but it's a totally different platform, and so that's, I think Vimeo is often where filmmakers will go to put their fancy films, Anyway, so at least a minimum of 10 hours of film, which if you think about it, doesn't sound like a lot, but your camera is not often running the whole time when you're out there, especially the way we shoot. I'm gonna geek out on it. I can geek out on equipment just a little bit.
I want to hear that, because that's what was going to be my next question. What types of cameras that you are using to capture all that video? And people will ask us that question, so geek the hell out.
So the thing that we do that is quite different than most people is we don't use like a camcorder with an autofocus. So we're using like DSLR cameras with high resolution lenses. So it's a pain in the ass to shoot the way we shoot, but we get super high quality imagery that we can use. So if you look at if you watch Chasing Ridgelines or I was going to say Harvest Moon, but Harvest Moon, we broke our fancy camera the second day of the trip, so we had to shoot it with a much lower quality camera. It was a very expensive mistake. But if you look at our films, you'll notice some of the way the quality of the footage is just super high. And the way we do that is we don't just have, like, most guys will have like a camcorder with a boom mic on it and what you call like the dead cat, that big furry thing. And they're trying to capture audio and video all in one unit. It's super easy for anybody who wants to do that. The downsides are audio is often very poor if you have any wind. It's hard to get good audio. And if there's one piece of advice I have for people, is like focus on your audio instead of the kill shot. Like, good audio really does make a film, and people often think about it as in passing, but it's really important. And oftentimes the difference between a good film and a mediocre film is the audio quality and the audio you get.
So you're using separate recording devices like lapel mics to do your recording?
Yes. Yep. We use lapel mics sometimes. So like Sennheiser, we'll mic up if we know we're gonna try and record some audio. Sometimes we use directional mics. There are some nice directional mics out there that you can carry that are lightweight. And then sometimes the onboard mics on some of the cameras does work, but when it's really windy out, sometimes it's just pointless to try and capture audio. So we don't even try. But so, for example, on this last hunt in the Frank, so to give you an idea of what we had for equipment, so we had 3 DSLRs. We had 1 camera that was mostly just situated for like long range shots, so carrying like big, heavy lenses so we could get those tight shots of deer at far distances. And then we had sort of 1 for more close-up shots, and then a backup camera as well.
Light.
Yeah,
super light.
What brands are you using? Like, get a little bit more detail. Like, which brand?
God, I don't know the model numbers off the top of my head, but I know. And if you want all like the super geeky details, we need to have Jason on here, my business partner. But we went from, I think, Sony to Panasonic for some of our cameras, and I think we may have gone back to Sony for some of our lenses and our cameras now. Every year, just like the technology is changing so much, we don't switch completely like which cameras and equipment we're using, but every year I feel like it's changing very rapidly. So
absolutely,
yeah.
What's your guys' Argali's stances on wolves? I'd like to ask everybody that. What's your thoughts on that?
Well, we don't have a stance on it. You could ask my personal opinion.
Your personal opinion. What do you think about wolves?
I think wolves should be, managed like any other big game species, is like the simple answer. I kind of have, it's like anything, like I have kind of a complex relationship with wolves personally. Mm-hmm. I think so. Here's the bottom line is I actually do like seeing wolves out in the landscape just from a wildlife perspective. Like, I think they're a cool animal. They're a revered predator, but they need to be managed, right? Because wolves existed on the landscape in the West for I don't know how many, like thousands of years, with elk and deer and everything else, and they managed to sort it out in terms of populations. But you can't deny the fact that we don't live in a day where wildlife species are not influenced by humans, right? Like, we have an impact both through hunting, through cities, and everything else that we do on big game populations, right? And we want part of that population for ourselves. So because of that, we've crossed the threshold of saying that we can just let nature figure it out on its own, in terms of like predator-prey relationships. We don't live in a country anymore where that, I don't think, is a really truly viable option. So they have to be managed, absolutely. And then where people get into fight, the argument is like how many, and like how many should you have? How many should we let them eat in terms of like elk and all that? So that's my short answer. I can tell you something that drives me nuts about wolves and just other predators, and the reason things drive me nuts about hunters in general is I don't feel like we do ourselves any favors when we portray wolf hunting in a super aggressive light. Like the whole, this is going to be controversial, but if you think about, let me just back up again. the vast majority of America does not hunt. What is it, like 92 to 94% of Americans don't hunt. And of those people, most of them have like a neutral position on hunting. They don't really care one way or another. It's like, I don't know, if you ask them, like, do you have a positive or negative? Most people are just like, I don't, really have too strong of an opinion. It doesn't really seem like it's doing a whole lot of harm. But as soon as we give people that don't hunt a reason to dislike hunters, that's bad for the future of our sport. And one of the unfortunate trends that I've seen is just people being fairly aggressive about how we need to kill every last wolf, and whether you need to poach it. The shoot, shovel, shut up school is not doing the hunting community any favors. Again, that doesn't mean we should not be killing wolves, but it's the way it's presented, and I think there's a tactfulness issue here, and we can't ignore the fact that the vast majority of Americans just are not hunters, but they can control the future of our sport if we're not careful. So, yeah, I don't know if that answers your question.
That's somewhat of a stance.
Yeah, I just don't get. Here's the other thing that drives me nuts too, man. It's like guys who aren't very good hunters, like, use wolves as a crutch. Like, for if they don't see something, they don't see game in a spot, it's like always wolves, man. It's always wolves that cause the problem.
I could not agree with you more.
That is
always,
awesome,
man.
That's so true.
And on my belief, I came full circle. I was one of the guys that said we should kill every one of them. And the longer they're around, they're not going to go anywhere. And now I think that if you're the guy that's out there saying we need to kill all those wolves, but your ass is sitting at home and you're not being part of the solution, you should probably just shut
right.
up.
Yeah. And I, it's like, I don't disagree with that at all. The position they need to be managed, because I fully agree that they do, but I just don't think this is like a broader point about politics in America. Rhetoric doesn't really help anybody except for the extremes. It doesn't help hunting. It doesn't help, big game management. Man, yeah. And the thing that I've literally, I can't tell you how many times this happened, but this happened to me not too long ago. I was hunting mule deer, and I was scouting in September for an October rifle tag. And I did this long hike, and I couldn't shake bulls off of me. Like, there were so many bugling elk. It was like September 30th. It was almost annoying, because I was looking for deer, and I'm like, man, I'm probably not gonna find a bunch of bucks rolling around if these bulls are hot. Did this long hike, came right back down. I was in elk all day long, and met a guy at the trailhead, and he looked at me in the face and told me, yeah, this place is burnt out. Wolves have killed all the elk. And I'm like, I've been here one day, dude, one day. And I don't know if they've had an impact on this particular population, but I'm telling you, like, I didn't even say anything to him. I just like, oh yeah, probably, So I'm not going to correct him and tell him, oh no, I've seen elk everywhere.
We ran into that on his last elk hunt. People are like, have you seen anything? We saw, oh my gosh, by that point, we'd only been out like half hour, and seen already like 50. And they're like, man, we're not seeing anything. What are you guys? They're on like in the same spot we are. And we're like, nope, well,
I know, yeah. No, wolves are one of those funny things, man. And I feel like it's not most people expect hunters to have a very vitriolic reaction to wolves. Like, it's not a popular position to be ambivalent about wolves in the hunting community. But I try really hard to look at it from like as objective a viewpoint as I can, and not just buy into one camp because that's what everybody is saying, and that's what everybody should say. Oh, you're a hunter, obviously you must, want to murder kill every wolf out there, and or whatever on the other side. So, and anyways, so I try and have a little bit more of a moderated view based on what I've seen and sort of in my experiences. But
no, you're correct. Do they have to be managed with extreme prejudice? They're not going away, but they're such a cool animal. I've seen them in the wild a few times, and I've shot one. They're just they deserve to be there, I guess, in my opinion. I didn't always think that.
Yeah, dude, it's when you watch a pack of wolves, like here's the other thing too. It's like a wolf, like there's some, like on the animal rights group side, they're like, wolves only kill what they, they're this animal that only, kills what they are going to kill to eat. And I don't know wolf behavior well enough to say whether or not they kill lots of elk or only kill what they eat. Like, I don't know enough about them. But I will say they're just a wild animal that's responding to their natural instincts to do what they're doing. And they're cool as hell. If you ever watched a wolf, it gets hard not to be impressed with them as a species. Like, they are just a very impressive animal. And the same way that, like, grizzlies or wolverines are impressive animals. So, yeah, anyways. Touchy subject. So
yeah,
glad we're getting into the easy stuff right away, Ryan.
Yeah, I only brought that up because you're hunting the Frank Church, and I've talked to a few outfitters there that they're on the other side. They want them.
Oh, yeah.
So it's
yeah. I I know there's a lot of guys out there. Strong opinions.
Well, and as you go, as you grow as a person and as a hunter, your perspective changes on certain things. And it's so funny, like, and if you're recording it like we are or on social media and you have a stance 5 years ago and you dare it be different from what you have now, oh my goodness, people are going to like freak out. Well, you said, I thought you thought this. What's, and you're like, dude, I changed my mind, so it's funny that, you can evolve as a hunter and be more respectful towards a certain thing that you weren't in the beginning, or learn or grow. And it's always interesting, especially with such hot topics.
Yeah, no, I had a old economics professor who used to, he had this quote, I don't know who said it, but it was something about, as the facts change, so does my opinion. How do you, make up your mind when things change? And, the whole point of it is like, it's okay to change your mind. It's okay to, as humbling as it might be to change your opinion, and you got to be open to doing that. So,
absolutely, yeah.
Sure.
As new information comes in, man, if you're dumb if you just take one stance and that's it.
Yeah.
Right. And it's hard to challenge the status quo. Yeah. Right. It's like I said, it's not a, I have no doubt that like a moderate opinion on the wolves or like a nuanced position is not popular in the hunting world, but, so be it.
Well, if those guys are truly, if they're not in the fight, they're not out there trapping or hunting wolves, you can go to the Foundation for Wildlife Management and you can donate to help reimburse those who are killing wolves. So you can do that route too. So you can't just say, well, I can't do it because I live in Missouri. No, you can donate to help keep those numbers down.
Yeah.
So anyways, getting back to you. You told me you come back for you come from, I cannot freaking talk this morning.
No.
The words are just not coming out of my mouth.
Keep trying, man. It'll work. It'll come out eventually.
You're doing great.
Have you always, you said you came from a rock climbing background. Have you always hunted and climbed, or is it just,
no.
Kind of tell me how that evolved.
Oh yeah. So I've always hunted, but hunting and fishing was my background growing up. But then I also, I played soccer through college. It kind of put me through college. So I got into, after I finished college soccer, I've been told that I have sort of a penchant for danger. I don't really truly believe that, but I call it like I feel like I'm more about I have a better sense of fear than maybe some people do, and kind of know when I'm in situations that are scary, and also know when my brain is taking me places that it doesn't want to go, but I can overcome that. So played soccer when I got out of college. Then I got into rock climbing, and it was just really enjoyed it. And so I think I was like 22 when I started doing it, and just kind of got into it pretty heavily. And it's kind of an interesting combination with hunting. But I always tell people, man, if I love hunting, especially big game, and I hunt a lot, but if it was my job and I had to do it all the time, I don't know if I would like it as much. It's just, I need a break sometimes from everything, right? Like, I love to hunt, but I also, at the end of the season, I'm kind of ready to just like put down the bow and the gun and just take a little time off and do something different. So it's a nice balance in my life to do something that's not hunting. It also, when I'm out climbing, it makes me want to go hunting more. So yeah, it's I've traveled around the world and have climbed. Sorry if my light's kind of spazzing out there. This is making the video look weird. No. Okay. But yeah, no, I've traveled to Asia, I've traveled to Europe, and have climbed, and it's still something I love doing. I've traveled all over the U.S., climbed, and I'm mostly into like technical rock climbing. I don't really do snow and ice really at all, but it's been something, I've always been into. I feel like it's a good complement too to backcountry hunting. Because there really isn't, when you're on, let's just say like a 3,000 foot rock face and you're in a scary situation, you definitely learn a lot about yourself and your emotions real fast. Some guys, I've seen people who are, very tough on the exterior break down and start crying in those situations and just have a total meltdown. So you just learn a lot about yourself and how you handle difficult emotional situations. And when the shit hits the fan, how do you react? Do you sort of like step back and just like stay in control and think logically, or you just start panicking? And I mean, I've had guys like, one time I remember we got stuck on this rock face, and this guy I was with, he panicked bad and immediately wanted to cut our rope. And I don't know what the hell was going through his head, but it was like one of those situations where you have to it's like people do weird things when they get into emotionally stressful situations. But the people that are calm under pressure like that, I mean, those are the kind of people that you want to spend time with in the backcountry too, because you can rely on them. Those are the people who, if something happens, like you break your leg or whatever, you get injured, they're reliable, and you can count on them to be there when things go south.
Yeah, and I've been in the military in some stressful situations, and you can never actually say, that beforehand, that guy is going to be okay. When it comes to the moment, the toughest guys always seem to be the weakest guys, and the weakest guys always seem to be the toughest guys. It's weird. Yeah, absolutely. Because there's like physical toughness, right?
Right. You can bench 300 pounds, like that's one thing. But that doesn't really, when things get stressful, you don't really know how people's emotional state's going to be. And so that's one thing that climbing is really, one of the things that transfers over quite well is just sort of that mental aptitude for dealing with stressful situations. There are other practical things that transfer over to like how to tie tying knots, which seems like a simple thing, but every time when I'm out with my buddies who don't climb hunting and we're tying up a quarter, let's say we're like hanging a quarter, and when you're holding like a rear ham of an elk up while somebody's trying to tie it to a branch or a meat pole so you can work on it, like a guy that knows how to climb can tie that ham off in like seconds, which is nice when you're trying to hold up an elk quarter. And a guy who doesn't is just sitting there just like, passing just like, I'm going to do this now. And I'm going to wrap it around here and under there. And like, eventually it's probably going to hold. Oh, yeah. I think most people are, yeah.
The thing is, I never really thought about it. You said 3,000 vertical feet rock wall. That's something where you get halfway in, you're all in. There's no going back.
Yeah. Well, yeah, man, because like a lot of times, I mean, sometimes you can retreat, sometimes you can rappel down, but a lot of times, I mean, you can't. Like you're in it. It's like there's only one way to go. And I've had that panics people out too sometimes, because it's like, well, what happens if it gets dark? It's like, well, if it gets dark, we're sleeping our ass on the rock tonight, so let's not let that happen. How's that for a plan?
Yeah.
Get your ass moving.
Yeah, let's just keep cruising.
This would be a good question for you. One of the biggest questions we get is from the Midwest guys or the East Coast guys. How do you get in shape for the Rocky Mountains if you're going to do on a several-night backpacking hunt?
Yeah. So the best way to get into shape is to never get out of shape, is what I usually would tell people. So don't start exercising in August for an October hunt. Start exercising now. And maintain an exercise regimen throughout the year, knowing that 90% of your listeners aren't gonna who are gonna do that. I would say, Yeah. Well, you guys live, you probably are hiking all the time. So
quite a bit.
Yeah. Because you have it out your back door. Stairmasters are amazing. So Stairmasters with weight are a great way to train. One of the things that I'll do too is usually, even if you're in the Midwest, you'll have a hill nearby, and doing just laps on that hill with weight on your back is great. I personally like to use water for weight, so I'll get a bunch of gallon jugs or a big 5-gallon jug, put it in my backpack, and as much other weight as you want. That way you hike your weight up to the top of the hill and then you dump it out, and that way you're not carrying weight downhill, which is what wears out your knees. Now you could say, I do have buddies who will say, well, but you get a lot of exercise on your quads by carrying weight downhill, which I think is true. But I'll save my knees for when it actually counts, and I think you're getting most of the exercise by going up. So, are you wanting like practical, workout stuff?
How if they're going on a 5-day hunt and they're coming from sea level, they're coming from 100 feet. How can you condition your lungs to take on that? You're going to carry 30 to 40 pounds every day for such an X amount of miles.
Yeah.
And how do you get your legs and body physically ready?
Okay. So the biggest thing, like I already said, definitely you need to give yourself enough time to condition yourself. So like if you start exercising 2 months before you go on your hunt, you're going to be disappointed with your condition. Like there's just no getting around that. There is no magic pill. So at a minimum, I would say 4 to 6 months out, like start getting, do what's realistic. I know everybody's got jobs and kids and everything else, but pick 2 days a week. Okay. Everybody can probably do 2 nights a week and spend 45 minutes doing a cardiovascular training program. In that cardiovascular training program, you need to be getting your heart rate up to a level where and it's going to be different for everybody, but where you're exerting yourself towards your max heart rate level. So let's say, and this is going to be a super generic training advice, but let's say my max heart rate is like 185. Okay. You need to have, because in the mountains, you're not typically walking on a flat ground where your heart rate just stays at a perfectly at the perfect same level. So if you get on your exercise bike to train and you just get your heart rate up to a certain level and just cruise along at that same level all the time, what you're lacking is that anaerobic, that up and down, where you go hard and then you go slow down, hard and slow down. You don't get that level of training, which is more realistic to exercising in the mountains. So whatever you do, make sure you have that. You don't just have an aerobic training. So you have peaks where you get your heart rate up and then you come down, and just, if you're on a bike, pedal faster for like a minute, go real hard, get the resistance level up, pedal hard, and then drop it back down to a normal level for like 2 minutes and do it up again. So anaerobic training is really important. And I think if you do that, 2-3 nights a week, fairly consistent, and you have like a decent diet, that's the other thing. Then by the time, even if you're at sea level, by the time you hit the mountains, you may not be ready for the elevation, but you're going to do fine. You're not going to totally bonk and be at the truck and be like, I just can't do this. You'll be able to like muster through your hunt. So there's that. I'm not weights are great if you're into that. I don't really do weights anymore. Haven't done them for a really long time. So that's one thing. My exercise regimen, which may not, I don't know if this is super relevant for most people, but I usually run in the mountains or ride my bike, either mountain bike or road bike, 3 days a week for cardio. And then I usually rock climb 3 to 4 days a week. So I may not be a great example for what other people can do, but I honestly think just a few days a week and you're going to be in a lot better position than the vast majority of hunters. But start early and keep it consistent, and also just mind your diet as well. Because if you're eating McDonald's for 3 meals a day and exercising twice a week, you're still going to be in rough shape by the time you get to the hills.
Yeah, I think it's kind of all the ones that we've asked this. It's running is probably the biggest cheat code for all of them. Is you can do it quick, stresses your body out, uses all the muscles
Yeah.
and lungs you're going to use in the mountains. So,
And if you are running, incorporate hills into your running, like, or at least steep. Don't run on, like, flat ground is only going to get you so far. So run up hills, and you'd almost be better off. Find a hill, sprint up the hill, jog down. Like, incorporate interval training into your workout. And if you are going to run, there's all sorts of different ways you can run to kind of help prepare you better for the anaerobic activity you're going to encounter.
Well, you said, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, the other thing is you don't need any special supplements to work out and get you in shape.
MountainOps.com.
Sorry, no offense to any of the lovely companies.
We need it. If I don't have Ignite, I'm useless. And that's the truth.
Sorry, go ahead, Tanya. I cut you off earlier.
No, I was going to say, I like how you said, use weight, and because I feel like we can, run on the track, and I'm like, yeah, I'm doing great. The day I bring my backpack, I'm like, holy shit, what just happened? And that's, I think, a good way for people to really dial in their gear to at the same time, their boots and their, the clothes
Totally.
that they're going to be, break that in, get your backpack dialed in, and then I mean, it's like no brainer once you say it, but a lot of people just, when they go to work out, they're in their shorts and their tennis shoes but that's not what they're going to be using when they're hunting. So if you do start to incorporate your gear into your exercise routine, just to get that all dialed in, that you can do it at the same time and not have to spend extra time trying to figure it all out if it's going to work for you.
Yeah, that's great idea. Yeah, that's a good idea. I don't use my gear a lot, but that's actually a really good point too, because that's, if you want to know like how much you're going to be carrying around in the mountains, like put it all in your pack, get it dialed in, and then take it out and start moving around with it.
Well, boots and stuff especially, because a lot of people will buy a set of boots and then not wear them until they put them on the first day in the mountains, and then they're dying and miserable because they're not broken in. That's a complaint we hear from a lot of people. It's like, well, just start using them a few months ahead of time.
Yes, please don't pull a pair of boots out of the box.
You say that, but people keep doing it. I mean, everybody says don't do that. I mean, that's crazy. Why would you even think that would be okay? But how often do we hear people say, these boots are shit, they gave me such blisters?
We actually talked to a pilot that flies into the Frank Church that said a guy had a brand new box of boots that he took in with him and pulled them out at the airstrip.
That's such a roll of the dice.
Oh, it makes you, I mean, and I've had boots that I wore for the first time because I didn't have an opportunity. We'd just gotten them in the mail, and they worked out great, but that is not the norm. And I was super lucky that was, and I had a backup pair in case, that I had been wearing for a couple of years, but I wouldn't recommend it. I mean,
no, absolutely. And it can happen. Like, here's the thing about boots too. And I know since we sell boots as well, it's like, there are certain people, because of the shape and size, shape of your foot, there are certain brands that you can pull out of the box and probably not have any issues. But just because I use brand X and I don't have to break them in, that is not transferable to anybody else necessarily, because our feet are like snowflakes, right? They're all different and they're all unique. So please don't do that. You're just like asking for trouble.
What boots do you sell on that note, just for the heck of it?
We sell Loas.
That is not the only. I do not work with Loas. Tibet's, any of the Latrips and Son stuff that they sell, that they make from Laowa.
I have Laowas.
She wears Laowas fine.
I
have the worst heel slip in Laowa, so you're 100% correct. You've got to try the boot.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and like, it's like backpacks and boots are like that. There's certain backpacks that fit people really well. They are all not going to work for you. So like, whether you're like a Mystery Ranch, an EXO, or Seek Outside person, like they will all fit you differently. And I guarantee there's one that will fit you better than all the others, just like boots.
Absolutely. So, and I've gotten into that with, you can't tell people which optics either, because everybody's eyes are so freaking different.
Yes, I know.
Well, yeah, and on that note with the backpacks, everybody says their backpack works great, but how many times have they put 60 plus pounds in it and tried it out? Do they still feel that way? But if you do that while you're incorporating your workout, you'll know whether or not your backpack is still great and just as good as everybody's other opinions. So it's a smart thing to do, I think.
Yeah, if you're trying out a backpack, the worst thing you can do is just like put it on with 10 pounds in it. Because a backpack doesn't earn its weight when earn its money when it's not weighted down. Like, you will know whether or not it's a good backpack when you have like 80 pounds in it. Like, put 80 pounds in it and put it on, see how it feels.
Right.
Because that is when a backpack becomes either incredibly uncomfortable or you're like, this actually, like, the weight is riding really well.
The straps start snapping off some of them, and they're like, oh shit, I thought it was such a good pack. Well, when have you ever had 80 pounds in it? So.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely.
Before we jump into the equipment side, we're talking about getting in shape for the backcountry.
Yeah.
What does the backcountry mean to you, Brad? What is that?
Oh.
As in what? People always throw around, we're going to the backcountry. We're going to hunt in the backcountry. We're going to do this in the backcountry. What does that mean to Argali Brad Brooks?
Yeah. So it has become a bit of a bastardized term.
Absolutely.
It's super in vogue right now. I remember when it wasn't super popular term, but I guess for me, it's about being in a place that really is hard to access. So that's all it means to me. If there's a road or an ATV trail to it, for me, that's not backcountry, but for some guys, that might be their backcountry experience. Right. So I don't really judge people. I feel like it's in the eye of the beholder. So for, some people, they might have, they're half a mile away from the truck and they're like, I'm in the backcountry, and that's great. I seriously don't, right. And that might be, they're stoked. And I think that's a great thing about hunting is, and this is like, not to get on a tangent, but public land is like, hey man, it's your playground. You define what you want to do on it. And if that's your thing, I'm happy for you. And I'm not going to judge your experience. The interesting thing about that term, Ryan, is that like, it's almost become like a way to define how hardcore you are, which I think is unfortunate.
Yes.
Because to me, it's just not what it's about. It's about, the value of like solitude. And I think that's what a lot of people want when they're out hunting, is they want to feel like they're kind of out there by themselves or with their buddies, right? Like, I don't know anybody that's just that's like gets out hunting and they're like, man, I just can't wait to see a bunch of dudes out there when I'm hunting, Like, I love seeing other hunters. Yeah. Like, nobody wants to see that, right? Everybody kind of wants to have their own paradise, or at least like feel like they're alone wherever they're at. And so to me, that term is like really what it encapsulates is the ability to go to places and feel like you're somewhat secluded, or, you're kind of alone. And, for me, it's like the more roads you have in a place, the less likely you are to find, that solitude. But that's, yeah.
That's a good That's a good definition.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, I've quit looking for the backcountry. I want to find the middle country where all the animals are.
Dude, it's not necessarily where the best hunting is, I got to tell you.
Absolutely. I found that it's not usually where the best hunting is.
I've got my buddy, Ben Gatormson. I don't know if you know Ben, but Ben...
He's a ginger, right?
He's a ginger.
I know Ben. I know him.
Yeah. Ben is like... I don't know if Ben's going to listen to this or not, but I don't want to say anything about him that people don't already know.
Me, Will.
We'll tag
yeah.
him. Brad said this about you.
You should. Ben has a habit of killing very large elk. Let's just put it that way. And I wouldn't describe Ben. We joke about this all the time, where like he's not looking for the furthest place from the road. He's a smart hunter, not a hard hunter. But it works really well for him. It works better than it works for me. I would rather. I don't know if we put this in. I can't remember if this was in Chasing Ridgelines or if we cut this, but I would rather be alone in the woods, like or hunting somewhere for like far away and shoot a smaller animal than like shoot it out of my truck, right? Like that's where my values are in terms of what I'm looking to get out of hunting. But that's not for everybody, right? So it's all in the eye of the beholder.
No, I couldn't agree more. It definitely is. And hunt for your reasons. Don't hunt for Instagram reasons.
Mm-hmm. Words to live by right there.
So getting on to you spend a lot of times in the woods. How do you make the spouse happy? What's your formula for success there?
Well, first of all, like, I view it more as like, my wife and I, a couple key things here. We started dating when we were both very independent people. So we had our own lives, right? So I wouldn't describe us, I love my wife and we have a great relationship, but we were independent people before we met. So she's got her own life. She's got her thing she's into. We do a bunch of stuff together, but hunting is not one of the things that she does. She's not into it. She loves the meat and all that, but it's not like, if I were to try, and maybe Tanya, you can talk her into it. But when I'm going out hunting, it's not something she's just like, oh yeah, I'd love to go like kill a deer or an elk. Not yet anyway. So when we started dating, we already had those things and I was already doing what I was doing. So it wasn't like there was a dramatic change in our relationship at any point in time. It's always sort of been constant. Since we've had kids, it's been harder because, kids just complicate life in terms of your free time and your flexibility in a good way.
Right.
In a good way. And I feel guilty, I don't want to be an absentee father in any way, shape, or form. And so the more time I'm away, it's harder for me. But so anyways, if you were to ask her, you're probably going to get a different story on or different answer to this question. But I feel like the key is that we communicate about, okay, here's what I'd like to do. How does that fit with your schedule and what you want to do? And we just have a conversation about it early. And, she's the type of person, and this is why we're married, is she doesn't look at, me being gone as a selfish thing. She knows this is part of who I am. And I know that when she needs to do her things, I'm going to support her. So it's a mutually beneficial relationship. And we communicate really well about what we're doing and why, how we're going to do it. And it works out. That's not to say it's always easy. Especially when our daughter was really young, it was hard. And, but yeah, so I don't know that there's a magic bullet for, keeping your partner happy.
I think there is. And you hit on this.
Okay.
People do, but they don't want to hear it. It's respect and communication. If you have those two factors, it seems like it works well. But what people don't want to, I'm going to say this and it's probably going to piss people off. What guys don't want to hear out of that is they're communicating and they respect the other person's thoughts and opinions. They want to hear, this is what I told her. This is the load of bull she bit off and, agreed to. And that's how I convinced my wife to do it. But first of all, you have to have a good relationship, I think, or it's not going to work at all. There's nothing you're going to be able to do to make it work because you don't respect each other and you don't have a good relationship. But
I think you're right. I mean, the cold hard truth of the matter is that like there's a lot of people that are in probably relationships where it's just not going to happen because there's some underlying issue that I just like I can't resolve. But I do feel like that is a question that pops up a lot, and it's mostly it's seen as like. I feel like one of the misunderstandings of that question is it's mostly associated as dudes wanting to get their wives to let them go hunting. But it goes the other way too, right? Like we don't hear about that as much, but there's women who hunt that want to have their own time too. Yeah. And it cuts both ways, right? And to me, it's about respect and communication, but you have to have like you can't view it as how do I get so-and-so to let me do what I want more? So much as how do I talk to my, wife, husband, partner, whatever, about what's important to me and how do I get them to support me and what's important to me. And then you have to find that balance, but it's not like, I gotta it's just important to note that there are times when I'm sure my wife is cursing my name when my daughter's up all night. And I know that's probably happening. And when I get back, she'll tell me, Ava was a real pill and I was really pissed off that you were gone. Right. So I know that happens. Can you guys still see me here?
Yep.
Okay. All right. Sorry. My phone was giving me a low battery notice here. So anyways, but we communicate about it really well, I feel like, and it works out. And I also start early, so I don't spring anything on her. And then I also here's something guys could do. Instead of just saying, I'd like to do X, you should say, I would like to go hunting. What is it that you want to do, and how can I support you in what you want to do? Yes. Try that out.
That would work out well, I think, for a lot of people. I try to tell my kids, I mean, we talk about this a lot. Our kids are 15 and 17, and, we're gone a lot together and separately. But I tell them it's really important for me to impress on them that every person in the family is important. Their things are important. Our things are important. And so if they understand, because we're still people, even though we're the parents, and there's still things that we like to do. And I think they get it. They're older, so it's easier for them to understand. They're not 2 and trying to understand why mom and dad are gone. But at the end of the day, every person in the family is important, and it's important for them to get to do things that they like to do. But, that works for just the spouse, the wife and husband, whichever one of them is going to be the one gone. But
yeah. I'm listening to, I'm just plugging in my phone too here. So, but yeah, no, I feel like you're absolutely right. It starts with respect, and communication and listening.
So do you have a sat phone, or do you have ways that you can communicate when you're gone?
I just got an inReach this year, and I loved having it. It was really nice. I used to, especially, and I know people say kids change your life, and it's absolutely been true for me. I used to have I just didn't think about it. The idea that I would not come home was never really a realistic thing in my head. I'm it was a little cavalier probably, but now that I have a daughter, it's not okay for dad not to come home. So the inReach is just, I love that thing. It's a pretty cool piece of equipment. And I'm able to text. I have I'm a cheapskate though, so I have the cheap plan. So I can send the preloaded text message. I don't know if you guys have used those, but you can send preloaded messages out, and I do that. And then we don't really when I'm out hunting though, I don't like to know what's happening in the real world unless it's an emergency, because it's easy to get stressed out about things that you can't do anything about. So there's always a crisis in the real world, and I don't want to know about it when I'm out hunting unless it's an absolute emergency. So we still kind of have a rule that unless there's something really important that I need to know about, in a true real emergency situation, just don't tell me about it, and I'll deal it, because we'll deal with it when we get back. Because you see, we were in the wilderness, and there were 4 of us on this film trip this last year, and two of the guys on our trip were sitting there texting. It was weird. They were sitting there texting half the time we were out there, and they were getting stressed out about stuff that was going on back home. And it's kind of why I go out hunting, is to kind of forget about a lot of that stuff. So that's the downside to these, some of the technologies we have today, is it's taking away your ability to totally unplug, which is unfortunate, but I'd say the upsides kind of outweigh the downsides.
Yeah, and people always seem to find, the people I know around that I go hunting with or been hunting with, seem to find reasons to want to come home. And that's just one more reason to want to come home. So
absolutely, man.
On the flip side, I feel like that little piece of technology allows me to not let him go more, but I'm way more receptive to the idea of adding another trip or being out longer if I know, that I'll be able to talk to him every couple days or text him or whatever, because... And
it's way more important for her, I didn't mean to cut you off, but it's way more important for her when she's with me in the woods to be able to talk to the kids than it is for me.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, I go on full-on sheer panic mode when I can't communicate with them or be able to check in with them, or vice versa, because I guess I'm a mom, and every possible crisis is happening in my head if I can't be able to reach them. So it makes it a better experience for me if I'm hunting, and I can just and for him, because he doesn't have to listen to me, and be able to check in every night, be like, even 5 minutes, hey, how's it going? It's going good. Okay, talk to you tomorrow.
Oh yeah, no, it's good. I like it. It's good. Like, when we were give an example of like why I wish I would have had it a few years ago. When we were filming Chasing Ridgelines, my wife was pregnant with our daughter, and not having any kids, I had no idea how this whole pregnancy thing worked.
And it'll change next time.
And it will, right? So our daughter was due at the end of August, and we had a filming trip planned the first week in August, which is like, I don't know, 20 days before we were due. When we planned that trip, I had no idea that you're not supposed to go anywhere within within a month of the due date.
Right.
And that's just like, you tell that to a parent, they're like, you're an idiot. How could you not know that? But we had no clue, right? So we had a filming trip planned. It was a fairly important one. And the day before we were going to leave, we had a doctor's appointment. And I asked our doctor, I said, we're planning to go on this trip. I'll have no cell reception for like 2 days. What do you think? And she looked at me and she goes, that's insane. I can't believe you're doing that. And I was like, well, that's not what I was hoping you would say. She's like, it's unlikely. She's like, I don't know if you're going to have your kid. I was like, well, do you think we're going to have our baby? She's like, I don't know. So we worked at
magic ball. She's
I know.
No, you're good.
And I couldn't get a sat phone at the last hour, and it was just like super stressful. Anyways, so if I had I did go. But here was the deal. We cut the trip from 3 days to one night, and I went in. I was out of cell reception for 12 hours only. So that's good. Yeah. So and I was stressed. I was super stressed, and yeah.
When did she end up born? Was she born?
21st of August in 2015.
So she was a couple days early then. What was her due date?
I think like the 30th. Yeah. So yeah, she was like a week early. Yeah.
So good thing you
stressful.
Short, huh? Yeah, it's stressful. I mean, families, when you're a single person and you don't have anybody but yourself to worry about, these things probably seem like the stupidest topics on the planet. But when you have family and people that are dependent on you and care about you, it's a game changer.
Oh, yeah. I'm one of those people who's like, kids won't change me. It's like, it's just the dumbest thing in the world to think that too now, like in hindsight, because there's no way your kids don't change you. And just your mindset.
Well, unless you're an absolute, I don't want to say a dickhead, but I mean, I guess but like an absolute narcissist where the whole world revolves around you, then maybe it's not a factor. But, not many people are like that, thank goodness. So yeah. So if you're single out there and listening to this, enjoy your selfishness while it lasts, because it won't last forever. Right. Well, I mean, and that's okay.
And your money.
Oh yeah, no, it's good. And so I say, enjoy it. No, I need it.
I mean, that's okay
Sincerely.
if that's your life right now. But I mean, it may come to a point where it will change, and you have to either get on board or don't do it.
Yeah. Yep.
And don't post all those pictures of your kids. We really don't care.
Nobody cares.
Everybody's got kids.
I know that.
Everybody loves them, but yet.
I know that, yeah.
Oh, we're such dicks.
Ryan loves pictures of people's kids.
I will unfriend you if I see 5 pictures in 1 week. I get it.
In 1 week, in 1 day.
It's not a miracle, people. It's not a miracle. All right, we're getting over an hour, so I want to run through. Just give us an overview of the gear that you used this year and anything that stood out.
Okay. So let's see. Boy, this could take a while. Let me go like backpacking gear.
Go ahead. Take as long as you want.
Okay. So boots. I started using, or this year I used Loa GTX. Really love those.
Hold on, we got to write this down. We got to write this down to link it.
So we can put up links. Hold on, give me just 1 second.
Why am I blanking on the model of the? I should know this.
I gotta let my dog out real quick.
All right, so we've got Laua's. What model did you say those were, or what style?
The Tibet GTXs.
Okay. And how long have you been wearing those?
I've been wearing those for a couple of years now.
So you've got a couple of years. Like how many seasons do they typically last for you? Are you a couple pairs in or?
No, I'm pretty hard on boots though. So like I go through a pair of boots every two. So what I'll do is I have like probably 3 pairs of boots that I'll use, depending on the time of year. So I don't just use one pair of boots. So like early season, I'm usually using like a lighter boot. This last 2 seasons, I've been running what's it called, the Scarpa R Evolution, which is a sweet lightweight boot. And I like that for early season use because it's just so feather light. This next year I'm going to be trying out. So Laua has some other really lightweight boots that I'm going to be trying out, but I don't have an opinion on them yet because I haven't used them. And then the other ones, the Solo Saslong GTX. I don't know how you spell Saslong. I actually don't know if they make it anymore, but that's a real, I use that boot for, it's a real rigid, stiff boot, but also a real light boot. But I wore my Loas basically September, October, and November this year, and I beat the hell out of them, and they handled it really well. They took a while to break in for me, so it took me probably a little bit to get them broken in, but once I did, they were really incredibly comfortable.
So are those more of a heavyweight boot?
Yep, they're a stiffer shafted boot, kind of a mid-height boot, which I wear honestly even during archery season. I typically wear a stiffer boot. I'm not one of the guys who wears like a tennis shoe when I'm out archery hunting, and then I can just, when I'm ready to stalk, I just slip them off for like mule deer hunting.
Do you have a wide foot, narrow foot? Do you have a
pretty average? Yeah, pretty average. A little wide, a little on the wide side. And then, we've been all First Light from head to toe. So, everything in between, depending on the season. Yeah, wearing either Obsidians or Corrugates, and then all the way to on top. Yeah, I don't know if you want me to go through all models and all that, but anyways.
Anything that you said, man, that's really a nice piece that I didn't like. I didn't like the Sawtooth when I heard it, but I wore it pretty much every damn day hunting. Yeah,
the Sawtooth is a really good piece. It added, for some reason, just added a lot of warmth to my kit this year. I wore it, especially late season. I didn't wear it early season. But yeah, it was really, the Obsidians worked really well for me too, pretty much throughout the year. I wore those archery mule deer hunting in late August and in November, and just layered around them. The one thing I will say I really like, I do like the Uncompahgre insulating pants that First Light makes. If you've never worn an insulating pant, you just don't know what you're missing out on, because especially later in the season. I freeze my butt off early and late when I'm glassing, and usually you want to be glassing for a while early and late, and so you just get cold. And my legs, doesn't matter if I have long underwear on, if the wind's whipping, my legs are going to get cold. And those insulating pants were just an absolute game changer. So those were a really cool piece of equipment.
Would you say, like, as an average, you run warm or run cold? Like, what?
Cold now. I run colder now than I used to. I don't know why, but yeah. I don't know if I'm.
Do the base layers, the First Light base layers too?
I do. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We just put a review up on the Uncompahgre puffy pants on Rockslide. Shameless.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
I didn't know that. What was your guys' opinion of them?
Jordan Budd did the review, and she said she can't live without them. She loves them.
Yeah, I mean, in full honesty, too, like, there are a lot of mountaineering companies that have been making insulating pants for a long time. So there are some other ones out there that are also, I think, equally good. But I really like the First Light did it. They did a good job with their pants.
No, they did an amazing job.
Yeah. So I'll just run through my backpack real quick then. Okay. So this year I used for the first time Seek Outside Brooks pack, which to be totally honest with you, it took me a while to really start to like it, but by the end of the season, it's become my favorite one of my favorite backpacks.
How much is it? Is that just, I don't know anything I've never used the Seek Outside backpacks. Is that like a ultralight? Is it?
Yeah, it's an ultralight backpack. I mean, you won't find anything as light as the Seek packs. They're feather light. So the Brooks pack is one that we did help work a little bit on the design of it, but it's different in just the way it functions than anything else I've ever used. And at first, I mean, I was a skeptic. I sort of I try and be as honest as I can about the gear that we use, and just be, anyway. So with the Seek packs, like, I did not, like, at first glance, I'm like, I don't think I'm going to like that. But then I used it, and the more I used it, I just was like, man, I really like probably like 95 to 97% of the way the pack functions. And it's super light. It carries weight well. It carries, when I was on it's a real modular kind of design. So it folds down really flat. It expands really big. It just worked really well. So super impressed with that. That was one of the big pieces of gear that I used. I've only used it this year, but I used it over the summer on like rock climbing trips where I'm carrying like ropes and cams and all sorts of heavy stuff throughout the fall, and packed out a bunch of animals with it, and just worked really well.
It's not because it has your name in it, is it?
No coincidence whatsoever. No, it was named after. It actually was not named after me. Named after the Brooks Range, which is not named after me either, unfortunately.
That's weird.
I know. Thought I was the only Brooks in this country. Yeah. So then, inside my backpack, this year, Enlightened Equipment quilt. It's actually the first year I tried a quilt. It worked really well, to be totally candid, until it got really cold out. And when it was cold, I had a 10-degree quilt, and I wore the quilt on top of my Neo Air X-Therm pad with my down pants on and my wool pants, and I froze my ass off.
What temps do you think you were in then?
It was probably around 15, 17 degrees, I'd say, at most.
And you had the straps?
I had the straps. I mean, it was secured properly because I had all season to play around with it. I spent a lot of nights in it.
I'm just asking because I get so many. I don't like quilts, and I've had so many questions. Does your quilt go to your neck or above your head?
It goes high neck.
Okay.
But I wore what I do though is I wear a down jacket with my hood. And I had a balaclava. Mm-hmm. So I have the First Light Tundra balaclava, which is a heavy duty balaclava. So I love it. I wore that to bed. So my head and my neck, there's no gap between my neck and my head in terms of like being insulated. And I wore pretty much all my clothes to bed, and I was cold. It was there's no getting around it. I was just really cold.
Keep you warm. I mean, those are like warm clothes.
I know. Yeah. So and I run cold, but that was disappointing. I don't know if I don't know what to, I was trying to think about what to tell people at Enlightened Equipment about like how it performed. I don't know if they would say I wasn't using it properly or what, but the problem I noticed is you just get some drafts coming in from underneath,
right.
And I just don't know how to get around that, even if you have it attached properly.
Yeah, and I tried to. The one thing I did do, I had one, I didn't like it. I ordered one that was longer, so I'm short anyway. It went to the top of my head, and it was substantially warmer. But I did do a November backpacking hunt this year, and it got down into. I had the same one at 10 degree. It got down to about 10 degrees, and I have an X-Therm also, and it just was really drafty, and my feet were like locked in because I had those things sucked down so tight, and it still got drafty. So I don't know what to say about that either. Yeah,
I don't know. Maybe I'm not going to give up on it. I will still use it for early season hunts. I'm not sure what I'm going to do because I do have some November hunts next year planned already, and I don't know what I'm going to do for sleeping bag. But we'll see. Maybe a Western mountaineering. I might try a longer version of the Enlightened Equipment. So we'll see. X-Therm pad is what I use. I use an MSR wind burner stove. I just use a piece of Tyvek to lay on. And what other gear? I'm trying to think what other gear I use. I know I have a bunch of it. I need it all laid out in front of me so I can see it.
Right, what optics are you using?
I use Vortex.
Yeah.
Seem to work out pretty well. The Razor glass is definitely a step up from any of their other stuff, but I'm not. So when it comes to like shooting, during rifle season, like I use the pretty much the Vortex, their HDLH scopes, their 3-15 scopes and everything. It's not a long range piece of glass, and if I was a long range shooter, I might use something different. But I can shoot that well out to like 700 yards on my rifle. I wouldn't shoot that. I only shoot game out to like 450. Is where I feel super confident, just because I don't practice enough to really feel like I'm gonna, or feel like I would want to shoot something further. But it works for me.
Yeah, Robbie used the same scope this year, and he's had a lot of luck with it.
He liked it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Liked it a lot. What caliber rifle are you using?
So this year I used Kimber 30-06. Their Springfield 30-06, and their what's their ultralight? I think it was a Montana that I used this year, and I really liked it. I don't think it was the Ascent I used this year. I have a 30-06 in the Ascent. For whatever reason, man, those Kimber 30-06 guns are like tack drivers, and I never used to shoot a 30-06, but it's been working really well. It shoots really well. I'm confident in it, and so I've just been using it for both deer and elk. I have a handful of other calibers, but I just shoot that one the best.
Gotcha. Bow, what are you using?
I have a Prime alloy that I've been shooting for the last couple of years. Really like that thing. It's got like shoot like 70-pound bow or something like that. Shot really well for me. Easy to tune, no issues.
So if you're going backpacking, what piece of gear are you taking every time? Outside of your backpack, obviously.
Outside of my backpack, and like what's in it?
Yeah, just one piece you're taking every time out. It's in your backpack. That's not the backpack.
Can I name two?
You can name as many as you want.
I take chapstick.
Name one.
Oh, name two.
I take chapstick because it's like fire starter. My lips get incredibly chapped when I'm out backpacking when it's windy, and it's like something that drives me absolutely nuts when my lips start cracking and bleeding. Just like generic
chapstick brand.
Chapstick brand. It's also a good.
Very particular about that.
Either that, or I take like a little thing of Vaseline, because Vaseline is such a great fire starter as well. And my rule is pretty much everything in my pack has to have more than one function, right? So, and then I also take I take a bandana pretty much everywhere I go. And if you've ever seen any of our films, like I get a lot of shit for it, but man, those things are lifesavers, because when, especially early season, like I put it underneath my hat and it keeps the sun off my face. So you don't have to carry sunscreen. Otherwise, like a lot of times you're going to get burnt throughout the year.
You know what's funny about bandanas is people get made fun of. They take a bandana, but they can take those shmags or whatever they're called.
Yeah, I know.
What the hell's the difference? It's the same thing.
One costs a lot more.
Yeah, exactly.
And I usually get like a red bandana, so I can use it to tie it off as a marker. I'll use it to like wipe stuff down. If I get cut, I'll tear it up and like use it to dress a wound. Like I use it for all sorts of stuff.
It could be a tourniquet.
Yeah, no, it's super.
Maybe. I mean, you'd have to really get it tight. But
you'd have to really, but you could.
You could if you needed to.
God, yeah. I think those are probably two things I can think of.
But
There's another one.
They're multi-purpose.
Another really important one's a long-handled spoon for eating. If you take a short-handled spoon, like you just get, and it just sucks because every time you dip your hand into your stove, like you're just getting like food all over your hand.
Yes. Absolutely.
And those pouches are deep.
Like they're always deep.
And,
yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah. That's so true. Have you used Rock the Exo Pack or no?
I've used an Exo Pack once. Yeah. It was great. Yeah, it's a good pack.
For some reason in my head, I thought you used it more.
No, I haven't. Yet. But no, I've had good experiences. I've used Mystery Ranch for several years, both their new and their old models. And, there's certainly, their old one was heavy, but it worked really well. Their new one is quite a bit lighter, and I still like it and use it. But I really tried to use the Seek Outside pack this year, force myself to see if I could use it and see how it worked. And like I said, it kind of just grew on me the more I used it. But
do you use the same pack for archery and for rifle?
I don't always. So let's see. This year I used my Mystery Ranch Metcalf for archery season, and it's like a 30. I think it's like 34. Was it 32 or 3,500 cubic inch pack plus a 800 cubic inch lid or something like that. So it's around 4,000 or 4,200 cubic inch altogether. I use my Mystery Ranch pack for that. But I don't know what I'm going to do next year. I try to mix it up this year. I'm such a finicky gear person, man. I'm always like trying different combinations, see what I like better.
Well, they're always coming up with new stuff.
I know. It's just, yeah, I know.
It's a vicious cycle.
So that you said that was for archery, the Mystery Ranch Metcalf?
I did, yeah. Okay. Yep.
So for rifle, then you.
Rifle, I use my Seek Outside Brooks.
Gotcha.
Yep.
Okay.
But I also use my Mystery Ranch for my archery mule deer hunt, and then I use my Seek Outside for my archery elk hunt that I did this year, just to kind of compare and see what I liked. And honestly, it's like splitting hairs. They're both great packs. I like both of them for different reasons. Some things I like about the Mystery Ranch I don't like about the XO, and vice versa. So.
Well, I mean, it's two different game plans, so it's kind of hard to say.
Yeah.
It as much as people would like one pack for everything, I think sometimes you can't do that.
Yeah, it is hard. But it is also hard to tell people that they should shell out the kind of money that packs cost. So yeah.
I fight that fight all the time. You can't tell somebody that's going to hunt 6 days a year that they need that much gear.
And you don't. I mean, you don't need it. No, you don't. But, if you're...
Want it.
Yeah. So you can definitely you're better off, like, if you're just going to do like one hunt a year, like find a kit that just works and just keep using that same kit and only deviate when you need to.
All right, we're getting long. 2 more questions and we're out of here.
Okay.
Elk or deer? You can only choose one to hunt the rest of your life. What are you choosing?
Deer. Easy. Next. No.
Next. That was simple and fast.
Easy, man. I'd hunt deer every day of the year and eat elk every day of the year. But I love hunting mule deer. I just think it's this is going to sound a little cavalier, but I think elk are just not as hard to hunt as deer. I just think like mature bucks are just a lot harder to hunt. I think they're more interesting in terms of where they live. I just find them as a species a little bit more interesting. I love hunting elk though, but I'd pick deer.
I would have said you're crazy until about 4 years ago when I met Robbie Denning. And that's changed my point of view on mule deer to Tanya's
Now
detriment.
we know Robbie is crazy, but for good reasons.
Yeah.
Because those mule deer are cool.
They are. I did not always used to be this way, but every year, the hunts I look forward to the most are mule deer hunts. Like, it's just the way it is. So I don't know what happened to me, but I love them, man. They're just so much fun to hunt.
They are. Same way. I was like, elk. That's all that mattered. And then, boom. Now mule deer matter. It's interesting.
Yeah.
So this one's kind of a 2-part question. It's you're a big, and this is a question we get a lot of times, and I've listened to Randy Newberg's explain the answer to this question. Why you're a big advocate for public lands?
Uh-huh.
Why? And if you do love public lands, what would you suggest to people to support? How do they support it? How do they make sure public lands stay in public hands?
Yeah. So my answer to that is super simple. It's just about access and opportunity. Public lands, I mean, we all own the 640 million acres of public lands in this country. And because we own them, we can use them and hunt on them. Without them, we would not have the opportunities to hunt like we do today. And just look at the way hunting is in Europe. It's a pay-to-play system. Handful of people own enough land and are wealthy enough to be able to hunt, in America, we live in a democracy, and public lands are an extension of our democracy. And without them, we just simply would not be able to live our lives the way we do, just plain and simple. Handful of people would be rich enough to hunt, and the rest of us would be begging on their door to let us go hunting every once in a while, and they'd tell us to go get bent. That's just the way it is.
Yes.
So that's why I love it. Very simple. I don't know where my life would be without public lands. And if you have ever hunted in the West, and actually in the Midwest and East, you've probably hunted on public lands or have benefited from the game that live on public lands all year round. So, and what people can do in terms of getting involved, number one, I say the most important thing you can do is ask your politicians how they feel about them, and make sure that they are in support of keeping public lands public. And then if they're not, vote for somebody that does support public lands. It's important. Show up and vote for people that care about public lands. And then I would say, support, there's a couple different, gradations here. You find a group, a conservation group or a hunting group that you're interested in. Maybe they have a local chapter that's into public lands, and just get involved. You don't have to give them money, but you can give them money, or you can volunteer. There's a lot of ways that can look like. I think the bottom line is just get engaged. Don't ignore how important this issue is, because there are a lot of people who do want to take public lands away from you. And if you ignore it, it's possible that they would go away. They're not guaranteed to be here forever. So get engaged, vote for politicians that care about public lands, and pay attention to what's going on around you.
All right, fair enough. But I lied. I got one more question.
All right.
What's up with Argali? Where are you headed next year? What's the grand plan for Argali?
Oh, yeah, good question, man. We have some of our own products that we're working on. So in addition to, on the store side of Argali, we'll be expanding our store. So we'll be carrying Mystery Ranch next year and a handful of other brands. And we'll also be working on developing some of our own sort of backcountry hunting products, which, can't talk much about right now, but hopefully we'll be able to next year. And then hopefully on the filming side, we're planning to do more of what we've been doing, this Last Wild Places project. It's all about kind of finding some of the best remaining really wild country, where you can have wild hunting experiences in America. So hope to go on the road a bit more and do some more filming.
All right, where can people find you or stalk you?
Oh yeah, Argali, ARG8LI_official. If you're into Instagram or Facebook, our website is argalioutdoors.com. I also have my own Instagram account, but it's really uneventful and boring. A lot of kid photos.
Hopefully not 5 in a day.
No.
Brian won't
Not 5 in a day.
Then.
No, I don't do any kid photos, actually. I have a rule against doing kid photos on social media.
Smart.
So, yeah.
Probably
Anyways.
for several reasons.
Yes. For a variety of reasons. Part of me is just like, I don't want my daughter to grow up having her whole life having been on the internet. So, want her to have
There's
some
creepers out there too.
Oh, there's creepers everywhere in this world, yeah.
Absolutely.
So,
all right, Brad, we appreciate you coming on. I know these podcasts aren't that fun sometimes and aren't that easy, but you did awesome. You got past me and Tanny not being able to talk or spell or any grammar.
Yeah.
Oh, you guys are awesome. Thanks.
You might mock us later, which I totally approve because we deserved it. Yes, thank you for not laughing right to our faces.
No, thank you for having me on, you guys. Appreciate Rockslide. We're happy to be a sponsor, and love the forum and love what you guys are doing. So thanks for having me on. Appreciate it.
Next time we'll have to get your wife on here to get her version of the story of the hunting widow.
Oh, she would have a lot more insight than I would. Actually, that's a really good idea. I'd like to hear what she has to say too.
No, they're fun. They're a lot of fun.
We've done a few now, and it's very eye-opening. And the spouse is like, Really? I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Oh no, that's what I'm saying. Like, I would be curious to hear how she answers some of these questions. So
It's actually
let's do
helped
it.
us, I think, with our hunting situation, just actually talking, because I'm like, I never knew he thought of that way or whatever. We can't obviously just communicate one-on-one. We have to bring a third person in.
Sure. Yeah. Hey, you're not. That's the way a lot of couples are. So
Yeah.
not unique.
All right. Thanks.
All right.
Brad.
Thanks, Brad.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.